Welcome back. Here with us on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Joining us live is Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, former Attorney General of India, senior lawyer who represented Aryan Khan in the court and secured bail for him. So thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Your first thoughts on the clean chit to Aryan Khan in Mumbai drugs case. Did you get a chance to speak to his family?
No, I have not spoken to his family. But personally, I am very relieved that truth has come out, that there was no material to implicate Aryan Khan, either on day one or thereafter. And that is what we had told the Bombay High Court while securing bail, that in a matter relating to drugs, you have to find drugs either on the body of the person or say in his car or his house, because it has to be conscious possession of drugs or that you have taken drugs. None of these things were there at the time of arrest. It was completely arbitrary and unjustified. And I personally think it also had to do with this media glare. The entire media was looking at this case, the whole country was looking at this case. And maybe a hasty step was taken by the department, thinking that if they don't arrest now, public might say that they are letting off a big fish or a big name, whatever. I mean, this is my presumption. It was completely wrong, the manner in which he was arrested. Unfortunately, he spent 25 days in jail. But I am personally grateful that the High Court took up this case and heard the matter over 3 days in parts and granted bail. And today, finally, truth has dawned. NCB has admitted that it made a mistake and that there is no material. That's what my thoughts are as of today.
Okay. Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, while opposing Aryan's bail plea in this particular case, the Narcotics Control Bureau had, again and again said that Aryan Khan has had links with global drug network. And now in the charge sheet, the agency says it did not find sufficient evidence. Your response to this sort of U-turn that we saw from the agency side in last few months?
See, in the first instance, I think it was only kite flying. They talked about WhatsApp messages, this, that, and the other, which is completely irrelevant, completely inadmissible. There was no material to substantiate any credible allegation. But you have an absolute power of arrest. That power is kind of unquestionable. You exercise that power. And thereafter, when you investigate, you come down from your pedestal, the matter peters down and down and down, and then you realize that you acted wrongly. So, unfortunately, the power of arrest is being utilized in this case and other cases right in the beginning as a first measure. The law provides it should be the last measure. You should not arrest a person unless you find that either he will run away and not face trial, or he'll destroy the evidence, or he'll influence witnesses. Otherwise, the law provides that you take a bond, that a person will appear before the investigating agency as and when required. And arrest is not there. But unfortunately, I find in hundreds and thousands of cases in this country, this power is being used or misused merely because you have the power. Having power is one thing. Exercise of power is quite.
Mr. Rohatgi, of course, we'll talk about other cases as well in just a bit, but talking about this specific case first, the probe, it seems, changed with the change in investigating officer. Who is to be blamed here? One officer, the set of officers, or the entire agency?
Look, it is not fair for me to comment on individuals in the department. I would say that the entire department did a wrong thing by a hasty arrest. In fact, the manner of investigation thereafter also seemed a little shoddy, because I remember two incidents which were being leaked to the press, and I personally saw that there was a man who was taking a selfie with in the NCB office, a heart attack. I personally know that there was no extortion bid made to the family of Aryan Khan, etc. There were some mysterious circumstances. There are some loose ends. So it would be appropriate if the NCB conducts an in-house inquiry to see how and what went wrong. Why was the arrest done in a hasty fashion? Why were some of these things leaked to the media? And then get to the bottom of it, pull up their socks so that these things are not repeated in future.
Mr. Rohatgi, the SIT findings in a way have revealed how basic SOP was also not followed. Do you think this should serve as a wake-up call for the entire agency? Should it introspect? Should there be changes in the way it really functions? Because it's not just one case here we are talking about. There have been many such high-profile cases in the past, and eventually what came out? Nothing.
I entirely agree with you. See, actually, every agency generally has a manual of do's and don'ts as to how you proceed, how you arrest, when you arrest, what is the way you investigate. There is a big CBI manual, I know for a fact, which is a big fat document. Similarly, every agency should have a compendium of do's and don'ts. If they don't have one, they should jolly well have one. They should go by the book. We live in a country where the democracy is based on rule of law. We have a constitution where the right of life and liberty is sacrosanct, cannot be deprived of, in a light or a hasty or an arbitrary manner. In my view, the NCB will do well to have an introspection in the manner in which this case was conducted. It should lay down a groundwork of do's and don'ts, and especially there should be emphasis on the fact that merely because you have power of arrest should not follow in a light or a light-handed manner without looking at all the circumstances. And I would also urge the courts, including the Supreme Court as the highest court of the land, to reiterate the law so that it filters down again. It refreshes the memory of the courts that mere power of arrest does not mean that you arrest in every case. Life and liberty is sacrosanct. Do not take it away in a light-handed manner. Be very careful in how you deal with these issues. I think, only then there will be a concerted effort. If the agencies also look within, frame rules, frame compendiums and manuals, the Supreme Court reiterates what the law is. And as I said in another channel, maybe it is time for the government to take a small step and pass a law that if the arrests are found as completely unfounded and arbitrary and unfounded, then there may be some compensation which is awarded, without going to courts and without spending days and weeks and months and years in litigation to get compensation. Maybe the compensation can be small, but it would go a long way in telling the agencies that if you arrest in an arbitrary fashion, compensation would be a stigma against the agency and against the individual. So these couple of multi-pronged approaches are required, to set the ball on the right path. That's the way I think is the way forward.
Multi-pronged approach, of course, is required so that this does not happen. And many questions also are being raised about the trauma. In this case, Aryan Khan had to face, the family had to suffer. Now, with NCB acknowledging loopholes in the investigation, calling the investigation shoddy, what more do you think NCB can really do to help say, for example, this family in this particular case?
Maybe I think offer an apology, because making an apology does not lower your stature. In fact, a person who admits that he has made a mistake, his stature rises in the eyes of the public. So the director has issued a press note. They could jolly well have added a line that we apologize for the manner in which the arrest was made, etc., and the trauma this young man has suffered in a jail. I think that would have probably meet the ends of justice.
Mr. Rohatgi, this was a high-profile case. Top legal minds like you helped him secure bail, and today he has been given a clean chit as well. There are many, like you also mentioned, who are languishing in jail. Should this clean chit give hope to those who probably have been falsely implicated too?
Of course, it will give some hope, but the point is, it's not very easy for hundreds and thousands of people who are languishing in jail to have legal recourse straight and fast, and their cases move very smoothly. A lot of problems in the legal system. There are too many cases. There's the explosion of cases. Population of this country is very high. The number of judges, as per the population ratio, are few. And out of that few also, there are a lot of vacancies. So, there is a lot of gap between the cup and the lip. So unless all these authorities, whether the agencies or the government or the courts, come together, it becomes very difficult for everybody in a different situation, to get bail and be as lucky as this case, where, getting bail in 25 days, if you ask me as a practitioner of the law, I would say the person is extremely lucky to get bail after 25 days and have a situation of a charge sheet being filed where a man is left out of the charge sheet without any accusation in a matter of 8 or 9 months. Considering the kind of cases which are going on and the situation, I think Aryan Khan has been pretty lucky.
One last question before we let you go, Mr. Rohatgi. What is the lesson we should learn from this particular case?
I do it every day, but the lesson should be to the prosecution agency that please do not be hasty, do not cross the Lakshman Rekha, be considerate, look at the material before you exercise the power of arrest. Always remember that life and liberty under the Constitution is sacrosanct, and remember that the greater the power on your shoulders or in your hands, the greater the responsibility on your shoulder, how to exercise and when to exercise. This should be a lesson to all prosecution agencies, whether it is NCB or others.
Very well said, Mr. Rohatgi. Thank you very much for joining us live on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for taking out time for us tonight. With this, it's a wrap. Thank you for staying with us here on Urban Debate. Heading into a short break. Don't go anywhere. Griha joins you next with all the latest news and updates.